one of, if not the biggest trade pieces approaching the trade deadline was Elias Lindholm from the Calgary Flames. We talked about it last show. What is Craig Conroy going to do? Well, he has moved his biggest piece to him. Elias Lindholm has gone to the Vancouver Canucks. Second trade involving these two GMs. Obviously, they acquired Nikita Zadorov earlier this year. We had Nikita on. He was very happy to go to Vancouver from Calgary, and now he's getting his old running mate, Lindholm, who is a very solid centerman. What this does for Vancouver, it vaults them into the premier Stanley Cup contender right now. They are number one in my books. They're killing it this year. I think they're third in the league, maybe second in the league. Now they have picked up this guy who will slot in maybe second or third line center. This is a dangerous team. I want to get your grades on this. How do you think Craig Conroy did out on this trade? Because this is his number one guy. I don't know Hanifin is good. He's got some, assets on the back end, but this was the creme de la creme. You had to nail it on this pick. How do you think he did on this trade, Tim?
At first, I thought he didn't get enough, and I'm like, geez, that's all it took? Because don't you think that more teams would have been in on that if that was the price? But the more I read about it, and you're getting Kuzmenko, who's a guy that was a 37 goals last year, something like that, and hasn't quite lived up to that this year. So maybe you get a little bit back to that number, maybe you don't. The pick that's really the kind of the gold chip in this deal, and I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, but this defenseman Brzustewicz, he's a 19-year-old kid. He's in the OHL right now. Through 47 games, he has 61 assists, which is most in the league, 69 total points. He's a defenseman. He's 19 years old. Third in the league in scoring. Scouts are comparing him to Adam Fox. I read an article this morning that was comparing him to Brant Clark, who was that kid from the Kings that was dominating the OHL 2 years ago. So just stellar offensively. The knock on him right now is just he has some gaps in his defensive game. His play without the puck, still a lot of work to do there, but the offensive upside is already there. So he's a very, very good young defenseman. It's something a lot to be excited about if you're Calgary. And the other pieces I think are okay. They get a pick as well. So I thought it was a good trade for both teams. I would give them both a solid A-, A to A even.
Yeah, I think Calgary comes out pretty good. I think we're underselling Kuzmenko a little bit here. I think he's a solid player. It was a sweepstakes for him coming out of Russia 2 years ago. Everybody wanted a piece of him. He settled for Vancouver, lit it up last year. Played fantastic, even though Vancouver struggled. I think he had 70-plus points in 80 games. He's struggling this year, maybe to adjust to Rick Tocchet's style of play.
That's what it is.
Which is a little more accountable. So he's going to go to a Calgary team where he can just go. They have no system. I don't want to say they have no systems, but they're not in the same position as Vancouver is when they're in first place in the West potentially, and they're really running and gunning. So he's going to have all the rope to do whatever he wants. He can be creative. He can take chances. He can go out. If I'm playing fantasy, I'm going out and I'm picking up Andrei Kuzmenko. This guy's going to light it up. He's going to all of a sudden just go on a tear. Calling it now. And then, the defenseman, Tim. This guy is going to be a difference maker from what we've heard. So obviously, if I'm Craig Conroy, I'm getting a piece for now in Kuzmenko. Then I'm getting a piece for a few years from now, which I can control in this Brzustewicz. If he pans out, even if he's a 3-4 defenseman who's a puck-moving guy, and that's the way the league shifted, you want these fleet-footed defensemen who can get some points, jump up in the rush. There's not many of them out there who can make a difference. So why wouldn't you? When you look at their defense, Calgary's right now, it's good. It's NHL caliber. Not a whole lot of really threatening defensemen on the offensive end. Yeah, I know Anderson and Hanifin and Uyghur's having a good year. Is there someone who really scares you offensively? No. And I'm not talking like a Quinn Hughes. I'm not talking to Roman Josi. But just a guy who can really move the puck and make some plays and just make your forwards more dangerous. I don't see that on their roster. They just have a lot of solid NHL caliber defensemen who are really good defensively and can chip in offensively now and then. This guy could change that. He could be a big part of this team moving forward. So I like this trade by Conroy. I think it's good. And then, obviously, for Vancouver, Tim, this is a slam dunk, right? How is this GM doing this? He's going out. He gets the best defenseman on the market, and he goes. It reminds me, who did it? Was it Florida 2 years ago who did this? They went out and they got Giroux. They went out and they got Sherratt. The two prime pieces going into the playoff run. Those guys were dangling out there for everybody, and Florida nabbed them both. Wah, 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 wah. It just didn't work out for them. Do you see a different fate for the Vancouver Canucks right now? Because right now, as it stands, If you put Elias Lindholm on the first line with Pettersson and Mekiev, that's pretty good. Or you can slot him on the second line with Besser and Pius Suter. You can move JT Miller to the wing. You don't want to mess up the line that's on fire right now, the Bluger, Garland, Joshua, Dakota. So many possibilities with this team. It's dangerous, dangerous team.